We are joined now by Kayce Smith of Barstool Sports. You hear her on the Unnecessary Roughness podcast. She's on the Barstool College Football Show and also the Barstool Pro Football Show. Lots of extra footballs.
Always.
How are we doing, Kayce?
We're doing okay, Andy. It's been a tough week for me. I'm losing my voice. I'm half sick. I still have not really completely calmed down from Saturday, which is why I'm here. I know that is why I'm here.
Yes.
When you text me yesterday, I saw your name pop up on my phone, and it was pretty soon after our main account had posted a video from Saturday night, Sunday morning on the podcast. And I was like, I think I know what Andy's texting me about. And I was right. So, You know what?
Well,
live and die.
Last time you were on, I said, you are the person I come to take the temperature of the Texas A&M fan base. And my thought on Saturday night, because we do a reaction show after each window of game. So after that mid-afternoon window, we talked. I had my whole list of complaints about Jimbo Fisher's game management, and we talked about it. And we spent a solid 5.5 minutes on it before we moved on to other games. And we probably would have talked about it again on Sunday's show and Monday's show, if not for Mario Cristobal. Like, Jimbo Fisher owes Mario Cristobal a massive debt of gratitude, because Jimbo Fisher's game management was garden variety bad, and Mario Cristobal's was nuclear waste bad.
Yes, and also throw Sarkisian in there too. Steve Sarkisian should also probably give Mario Cristobal some gifts as well, because we really did see it kind of in every window, right? We saw what happened in the Red River shootout, the way that Sark called the end of that game, which I thought was very cowardly. And then obviously with my fan base and my heart, seeing what Jimbo did against Nick Saban in that middle window. And then the night window, what Mario Cristobal did is just unexcusable. I mean, if I was a Miami fan, which I know there's not a whole bunch of those, but if I was, I would be absolutely losing my mind, because that was so unavoidable. However, throw that out, take that out. What happened against Alabama for A&M, and we can get into the Red River shootout as well, because that had so many storylines. But I mean, what Jimbo Fisher did is unexcusable. It just wasn't as unexcusable as just not kneeling the ball to take the I mean, the fact I'm saying that out loud is crazy. Like, all you had to do is kneel the ball and you win. So
yes, it was worse.
A lot of coaching decisions made me just go batch. I can't. I almost swore. Look at me. Look at me.
This show, we might add the E, we might not. It'll be fine. But
I almost went batshit crazy, Andy. I'll say it then. Okay.
Yes, there you go. Listen, you got a newborn. You're probably doing that quite a bit these days. So
yes,
let us watch. You actually were still heated about this. So we're gonna watch you walk and talk through New York, because this one, again, you had time to calm down and you still haven't.
After your team suffers a heartbreaking loss, however it goes down, you have two options. Wake up, keep it moving, or think and talk about it all day. Option number 2. What Jimbo Fisher did against Alabama was disgusting. This man gets paid almost $10 million a year to mismanage the game the way that he did. And I don't need to go through the list of the decisions that he made, because people that are watching this are probably aware. But if you're not, for example, 1, he punted on 4th and 1 and then got up on the podium in front of God and everybody and said, well, we would have gone for it if it was 4th and inches, but it was 4th and 1. What? I don't know if he's playing ignorant. I don't know if it's just a man who's comfortable with his guaranteed money, or if he thinks we're utter buffoons, but this is unacceptable. And I've been saying this. A&M has everything in place to be a successful program, except for apparently a head coach. And I had Aggies in my DMs being like, well, we have to be positive publicly. Why? What is it going to take? I do not understand that mentality. And I know there's going to be Bama fans like, well, you said A&M was the better team. Hand up, I thought we were. Jalen Milroe gashed our secondary. The offensive line could not protect Max Johnson. But at the end of the day, Jimbo Fisher is not getting it done. And I know if he ever does, I'm going to have to eat my words. But when is that going to happen? Are we just going to sit back and say, oh, okay, well, another game mismanaged, another game down the drain? This was the most vulnerable Alabama has been in a long time, and he ruined it. Period. Done.
So that sound, by the way, is your mailman showing up with a 12th Man Foundation. How much are you going to donate?
If
he's done, it's a lot of money. So
listen. As I'm rewatching that, I haven't rewatched it since I posted it. I still stand by everything I said and then some, because I know that the original clip that you texted me about was a lot more fiery. I probably made I made some not safe for work podcast joke.
There was a 6-inch joke because
there was a 6-inch
he
joke.
talked about the difference between 4th and inches and 4th and 1, and that sets you off even more because, I mean, come on. We're only talking about 2
I was losing it so much when I did that podcast, Andy, like hand up, I can admit this, that in the moment I forgot that like the difference in 4th and 1 and the difference in 4th and inches is not just 6 inches. That's how much red I was seeing. Like in my head, I was thinking like 4th and 1 foot. Like that's literally how angry I was in like the actual definition of literally. So yes, like I made a 6 inches joke in the moment. So we do a reaction podcast as well on Saturday nights. But the thing is when I woke up the next day, and, you know, obviously you do this for a living, you know that you kind of have to get yourself up for some things, and other things, they just naturally stay as passionate. Yes. I was still as passionate about what happened in that game because I was so confident that A&M was the better team going into Saturday. And not because I'm an Aggie, not because I'm a homer. I mean, those things are obviously true. But the way that we had seen Alabama play this season, and then the way we had seen A&M play, especially before or after the Miami loss, which I took a hit with their loss to Georgia Tech, but I believe that A&M on paper had the better team. I did not expect Jalen Milroe to have the game that he did. I knew that A&M's weaknesses were in the secondary, and he obviously exploited those. The offensive line has had some issues. But overall, this was a vulnerable Alabama team in comparison to the way that Alabama has looked. So I was passionate all day. I was so confident. And then obviously we saw how that came to fruition. And whether it's fair or not, I'm putting this on Jimbo Fisher.
Well, and it is fair. It is fair because you can say, oh, if Anaya Smith's foot doesn't graze the sideline, A&M wins. But an Alabama fan would go, if Dallas Turner doesn't get called for a chintzy blindside block, which may or may not have been one, but was certainly way behind the play and was dumb. Like, if not for that, Alabama wins by a bunch. But the fact of the matter is, A&M was in the game. If A&M wins that game, they are the odds-on favorite to win the SEC West. Everything that Jimbo Fisher was hired to do is now in sight if you do that. And he calls a timeout on 4th and 1 and kicks a field goal. Like, it feels more insulting to you guys that he called the timeout first and then decided to kick the field goal.
And you know, of course, in the video that we just played where I'm walking around, I'm like, I'm not going to list all the decisions, but let me go ahead and give you an example because there were so many things that you could really point to. And I've said this throughout the week when I've talked to different people and then on Unnecessary Reference as well. It's not just the decisions, Andy, that he's making. It's the excuses that he makes afterwards. Because in the moment, you know, every once in a while making a bad coaching decision is going to happen. Like, I don't anticipate, you know, those never happening regardless of who the head coach is. But then to get up in a press conference afterwards. And like I said, I don't know if he's playing ignorant. I don't know if he's just comfortable. I don't know if he just thinks that people aren't going to understand or people aren't going to call it out, whatever. But to say things like, well, we didn't go for it because it was 4th and 1. But if it was 4th and inches, we would have gone for it. Anybody that watches football, anybody that has a brain knows that that's not how that works. That is not the correct answer at that point.
Yeah, you're 4th and 1 on the plus 45. Every nerd is going to tell you to go for that. And just from a common sense standpoint, fortune favors the bold. At some point, you have to say, my big people are going to go against your big people, and we're going to try to get this 3 feet. Like, you have to say that. It's interesting that you brought up Red River earlier. I felt like that was a seminal moment in Red River.
1,000%.
The goal line stand for Oklahoma, where Sark kept sending the defensive linemen out to be fullbacks. And there was a play where one of them gets blown up by a 225-pound linebacker and pushed back into the play. Like that, at a certain point, you just got to say, this is a game about territory acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
We want to acquire this 3 feet, and we want it more than you.
Yeah, and taking risks too. I mean, again, it's easy for us to, you know, who are like the couch quarterbacks, right? Like sitting there and being able to make those decisions. But like as a whole, there are plays that even if you're not a stats nerd, that you know that that's usually the right thing to do. And in the Red River shootout too, I mean, again, we can talk about all the decisions Sark made, but just even playing prevent defense at the end of it, like prevent defense in that point, like it blew my mind that these coaches are playing scared. They're coaching scared. And that's what Jimbo looked like he was doing a lot of the times. And then to stand up and do what he's done the entire time he's been at A&M. And I have Florida State fans telling me he was doing it at Florida State as well. that it's almost just like, well, hey, this is my call. I'm going to stand by it, and then make some sort of excuse. It's just unacceptable. It's just not okay. And Alabama, like Nick Saban is always going to be Goliath, right? Regardless of what their team looks like, whether they're quote vulnerable or not, a down year, they have Nick Saban. Why would you coach cowardly against the greatest college football coach of all time? You used to be his assistant. You know what he is going to do. You know what this man has built a career and a legend on. Why would you coach scared? And he did it again.
All right. You know what Nick Saban would do if he were in your shoes in that moment.
Right. Yeah. But a lot of guys taking risk. And even if you go for it, with the 4th and 1 when they punted, if you go for it and you don't get it, at least you went for it. Like, that's what the frustrating thing is. And I know in retrospect, you can always go back and forth with arguments like that, but you're playing Alabama at home in front of the largest crowd that Kyle Field has ever had with this current stadium. And you make decisions like that, and then you wonder why people are frustrated. And Andy, I'm going to lose it because it was in my Instagram comment section, Aggies still being like, well, Kayce, name somebody that can consistently beat Nick Saban. Don't worry, I'll wait. It's like, this
Kirby
isn't
Smart.
just an Alabama thing. This isn't just a Nick Saban thing. This is a Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M thing. It just happened to be that they played Alabama. And if we're being honest, this is not the Alabama of as great as they've been in the past. Now they might be, because Jalen Milroe looks really good, but going into that game, they were not.
But the thing is, if we just take the game on the whole, and like our friend Parker Fleming, who does that great "How bad do we really get beat" graphic and it shows net success rate, basically, whose offense was more successful, whose defense was more successful. Alabama A&M are like dead center. They're like 4 plays separating them in that game. They were not that far apart. And again, that was for pole position in the SEC West. It didn't mean you're going to win the SEC West, but the winner was going to be the prohibitive favorite. And yeah, I'm with you. And here's my thing about A&M. And I'm curious to see how you feel. And you're in touch with your fellow Aggies about this. If they can turn this thing and go to Tennessee and win, and then win the rest of these games, or maybe drop one, and they're sitting there at 9-3 at the end of the year, are you okay with that? Are you happy with that? Or does this just burn no matter what?
I think it's going to burn no matter what. However, in true honesty, it's like A&M has not, we haven't won a conference title since the Big 12 in 1998. Obviously, Johnny's seasons were great, but, still not making it to that next level. So to go 9-3 is a successful season. Let us not forget, Jimbo missed a bowl game last year. However, like that to me is, when people say like you just read the box scores and you sit back and you're like, oh, you're a box score type of person. That to me is just reading the records, because yes, going 9-3 every single year would be awesome. But to know how that 9-3 really came to fruition after all this time. And I'm somebody who, when Jimbo Fisher got hired, like all the drama with, the off the field stuff with Jameis Winston, like I've always thought that was, suspect, but that stuff aside, you can separate that for this conversation. The man won a national title at Florida State. Like, yes, he had Jameis Winston, but coming into it, I was like, this guy knows how to literally win national titles.
And his rosters were loaded those years. 13, 14, 15, 16, loaded rosters.
Incredible. And he obviously can recruit. A&M has had the number 1 recruiting class when he's been at the helm. I just don't understand why it's not all clicking. And again, Florida State fans at the time were like, you'll see. And I told them all they were idiots and, got into a, Twitter fight as we normally do here at Barstool Sports. But now I'm seeing what they're saying, that without a Jameis Winston level of a quarterback, he cannot be successful. But last year it was like, okay, well, we need an offensive coordinator. And, you see all the memes with all the papers he's, fumbling around like it's 1975. You hire Bobby Petrino, but then certain decisions, it felt like it was still Jimbo making those decisions. Like Bobby Petrino, Bobby Petrino has done well and obviously helped the offense, but doesn't it seem like Jimbo's still making?
Well, Bobby Petrino doesn't get to make the 4th and 1 decision. Like that's the head coach's job. So that's you're right. And the question is, what do you do about it? Because if they go 8-4, 9-3, that is acceptable progress. When the alternative is paying $76 million to fire someone, like they're not going to pay that. So what happens?
And this is where like my frustration comes in, because I know how much money A&M boosters have, and that's the Texas oil money, the whole thing. It's a very prototypical like, well, A&M has money because A&M does have money. You see the NIL deal stuff, whether those numbers are, exaggerated or dramatic or whatever, but that buyout money is sitting there. And like, for people that are listening, I'm not going to, go through like the financials, but like, just go look at how Kyle Field was actually built, because it's insane. It's not tuition money. It's not state funded money. It's private money that built that new stadium. And it's ridiculous when you look at how it breaks down. That money is sitting there. You can't say, okay, they miss a bowl game last year, they go 9-3, 8-4, and say that's not progress. But look what happened, in years prior. In 2020, now COVID year, or we all kind of throw it out across the board, not just in football,
right?
But they almost made the playoff. That's not been built on. You then have the number 1 recruiting class the next year, and that's not been built on. How long do we give this guy to say he's got his guys in? He's going to get it all together. He got an offensive coordinator. He's got a defensive coordinator that seems to be better now. What do we need to see? Because this guy clearly doesn't look like he's the guy that's going to bring A&M a national title, which, by the way, when he got hired, they gave him a national title trophy with an empty plaque on it, which is embarrassing enough. Okay. I'm still heated. I mean, I think, what is it? Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going at it.
That's right. Listen, she doesn't sleep at all. She got a baby in the house. All you're doing is making her matter, Jimbo Fisher. Look at what you're doing. And,
people are asking me, who do you want to go get? And like, of course, my answer is, well, give me Deion Sanders. I mean, obviously, like,
oh my God.
Can you imagine? I said this, and it's so true. I would be the most insufferable person on the planet. And I might beat up some people already, but if you get Deion at A&M, and I mean, my whole world would just be made. But in reality, you've got guys like Mike Elko, who's coached at A&M before. And I'm not saying that, Duke is going to go win a national title, but Mike Elko is clearly taking that step to be a good head coach. You look across the board and you say, okay, do you promote somebody from within? Do you go out and find the next big name, Jonathan Smith, guys like that? I don't know, but I do know that thus far, it seems like Jimbo Fisher is a great recruiter. He's going to get those guys on campus, and it's just not going to come to fruition. And it's not just because they lost to Alabama. It's week in and week out. You scratch your head. Now, if they go out and beat Tennessee, great. I'm not going to be changing my tune. A lot of Aggies probably will be like, well, see, Tennessee was really good. Tennessee was really good last year. Tennessee this year is not the same team with Hendon Hooker. So that's kind of the way I look at it. But of course, like once I get mad, I stay mad for a while, Andy. You know this. So that's where I'm at.
You know what they say, when you've lost Kayce, you've lost the Aggies.
Well, and I had some, which, by the way, Texas fans trying to dunk on me about this was very weird. So I was like, guys, see what happened in the Red River shootout? Like, and I thought Texas would win that game. But, pulling old tweets being like, I love Jimbo Fisher. It was from when they beat North Carolina in the 2021-2020 season bowl game.
Yep.
Okay, fine. And then when he got the number 1 overall recruiting class, the newest tweet was from the recruiting class in 2021. It's like, well, first of all, you can evolve your opinion on this guy. Second of all, like, I don't understand how any Aggie fan can sit in front of this TV or sit at Kyle Field or the opposing field and say, this guy is going to get it done, because he hasn't done it yet. And he's paid an ungodly amount of money to make these decisions.
I'm going to text my friends. No. I'm going to text my friends at the 12th Man Foundation. Trust me, they will be looking for your donation to make this happen if that's what you truly want, because that they're the ones that have to raise it. So we'll see how that goes.
I know, but I think in this day and age with football, and obviously, giving a guy a guaranteed contract is always going to be very risky. I still don't understand that thought process, guaranteed for 10 years. Like, that does not make sense. However, in reality, and, I have a lot of opposing fans saying this to me all the time, like, what does A&M expect? A&M hasn't been at the top of the conference in a very long time. And I do understand that. But when you look at everything that, since Johnny has been there, we'll just put that aside, since the SEC move, everything has taken that step up to become that next program. You're not going to become it overnight, but you can get, look what TCU did last year. You bring in a first-year head coach for TCU with Sonny Dykes, and they make it to the national title game. Look at what, Deion's obviously a different level, but you look at these different places and, it can't happen. Why is it not happening in College Station? To me, it's the head coach situation right now, but I could be wrong.
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out, Andy.
We got a game in Neyland Stadium on Saturday. You may have a lot more people on your side afterward, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna be as my son doesn't know yet. He's only 8 months old, but like I was saying, like, I'm gonna get my mommy juice. I'm gonna have my wine and I'll calm down and we'll see what happens.
There you go, Kayce Smith. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, Subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.